It's an honor again that I can share some concluding thoughts. A number of years ago, one of my MBA students who was graduating helped me write a book called Disrupting Class, and it was a book examining why our Americans' schools struggle to improve. And looking back on it, it was a good book, not a great book, but it was a good book. Michael Horn, my co-author, was at a conference where the people there were talking about how do we improve our schools. And he observed in that situation, as in most of these kinds of situations, the participants were talking past each other. And everybody seemed to have a good idea, but there were so many good ideas that at the end, the only thing that they could remember about the meeting was that there were a lot of good ideas. But there was a man at that conference named Jeb Bush. And Jeb Bush had been the governor of Florida, finished his term, and decided he would dedicate his life from that time on to improving our schools. And he took my co-author, Michael Horn, over to the side at the end of the meeting. And he said, "Michael, you have a concept in your presentation that's called child-centric learning." And what we had done in our book is we said, you know, online learning actually helps teachers teach students better because it gives them the flexibility to teach each child in a way that the child is wired to learn. And we decided to call that child-centric learning. And Jeb Bush said, "I've got some good ideas, but that is a really good idea. Would you mind if I just take that slide out of your presentation, and can I use it in my presentation too?" And Michael was just honored that he would do that. And then Michael said, "Governor Bush, you actually have 3 slides in your presentation where the language that you're using is so much better than mine. Would you mind if I borrow those 3 to use in my presentation?" And so they did the switch. It turns out that Jeb Bush was a good friend for Governor Wise of West Virginia and Hunt of North Carolina. And you guys have been to these conferences where there's a cadence of keynote after keynote after keynote, you know. And so these other governors were part of this cadence. And Jeb Bush said, "Let's go meet with Bob Wise of West Virginia and see if we can borrow some of his slides and ours, and vice versa." And then they brought in Governor Bush, or Governor Hunt. And then they decided, you know, let's just standardize on the concepts and the vocabulary. And so they all got together one weekend and presented to each other using each other's language. And within just a couple of months, instead of Michael Horn standing out in the wilderness speaking his own language, and then everybody else standing up speaking in their language, you had these 4 extraordinary people, apostles of improving our schools, who were speaking the same language over and over again. And that's kind of how I feel at the end of this conference. My goodness, we have great ideas. I'm not sure I know I can replicate what anybody said because there are so many great ideas. But I wanted to just offer to you that you do amongst ourselves what Michael Horn and Jeb Bush and Governors Hunt and Wise did. And that is, let's take the best of each other's ideas and the best of each other's language and the best of each other's ways of communicating what we're thinking about. And rather than expanding the breadth of the ideas, I kind of think we need to standardize our what's top of mind. Because I think we would all believe that if we focus and clarify, we'll have a better impact. So that was one thought I wanted to share. The second thing is the Jews historically, when they set dinner, the Seder dinner for the Passover, their practice was to set an extra table there for Elijah, because there's a belief that Elijah will come again and has much more to do. And it was there to remind people that he will come again, but also to remind people what that prophet Elijah stood for when he was alive. And I think this is not a stupid idea, that if in fact we can come together and share with each other and focus on the best of what we can offer, when we have that meeting, we ought to set up a separate place at the table for Peter Drucker. And when he has given us not just great ideas, but great language, we ought to think about, maybe we'll just take that concept, Peter, and stick it in our presentation. Because I think he gave so much that we can use to focus on what we're trying to do. So that's the second idea. The third, Richard, could you stand up for me, please? I just wanted to tell you thanks. My sense is that your primary purpose is to help all the rest of us just learn useful things. And you're a selfless man, and I just wanted to tell you thanks.
You're just full of surprises. So, I'm actually not sure what the answer to this question is going to be. In terms of business, are you an optimist?
I am so optimistic.
Why?
Because I just don't think the best products and services and processes have yet been developed or discovered. Some of the biggest problems that mankind has ever faced are right in front of us. You know, the idea that there might not be growth in the future. What a huge problem, you know. And rather than being despairing about these problems, here we have an opportunity for the best in the world to focus their capabilities on solving these problems.
So I guess what makes you confident that that sort of level will rise to the challenge?
Will the people rise to the challenge?
Yeah, will people, institutions, leaders, we could paint a picture that's pretty grim.
Yeah.
I've heard you say, management, if anything, is getting worse lately. So what makes you confident that something good is in the future?
Well, I think that when you see somebody underperforming or missing an opportunity or screwing up, on occasion it's because they don't want to succeed. But most of the time, when they don't do well, it's because they don't know how to do it. And we got a lot of people here who are trying to figure out how do we teach people how to do these remarkable things, you know. And I think there are a lot of things I'm taking away from it. Mm-hmm. But the most important one, I thought, is we have a great message. We need to focus the message, and then we can help people do things that they historically couldn't do.
Mm-hmm. So all throughout the last couple of days, people have continually thrown out the word disruption in a maybe more casual way than you would. Yeah. Actually, when you mentioned people not reading more than a couple pages of business books and then sort of opining, I thought you were referring to a certain magazine writer, and but you didn't go there. But help us. I mean, this is the theory that is associated with you. We use the term. We probably misuse the term. How can you help this crowd kind of understand it better, the disruption theory?
Well, let me say that it is a big problem because the use of the word is so loose and misapplied that it probably does more harm than good to the concept itself, and the concept is a very simple concept. That is, there are processes in an organization, and when a company entering thinks that they can make a better product that they could sell for better profits to their best customers, somehow that they're going to be able to succeed against the incumbents. And what the theory said is, that's not true. They will always kill the entrant in the pursuit of profit. But if instead you come in with a simple product selling to simple customers at the bottom of the market, the leading companies will flee rather than fight because they are in the pursuit of profit. And it's a very simple idea. It's not just me that has had this problem. Michael Porter gave us this word called strategic. How many times have you been in a meeting where somebody said, this is a strategic investment, meaning we'll never make money at this, but it's my pet profit. And they use it to justify what they ever want to do in the first place, and they use disruptive for the same purpose. Have you ever heard the word paradigm? None of these guys ever read Thomas Kuhn's book, but they invoke paradigm to justify the logic of whatever it is they can't explain, and so on. And so we collectively have a problem, and I don't know how to solve it. It's beyond Clay. I can speak about this a bajillion times. I'm not sure how to solve the problem.
There might be one more HBR article to write about it.
I'll write it if you... Yes, I would love to write an article about it.
All right. We'll never know what you just edited out of that comment. I wish this could go on all night. We're way over time, and I thank everybody. This was an experiment. It was great to have Clay with a final word, and thank you, everybody. Thank you, all our speakers.